You're listening to a 4x4 Radio Network podcast.
Hey, Jeepers. Welcome to show 170 of On the Trail with Kevin and Scott. I'm Kevin, the engineer, the guy who reads instructions, uses the right tools, and will smack Scott over the head trying to take a bite out of my charging little disc.
This cookie tastes funny.
If I had it plugged in, it tastes even sharper.
Nah.
And you are?
I am Scott. I'm the slapstick parts guy on a continual mission to derail poor Kevin's train of thought, as said in the previous videos. So on that note, while we will share what works with us as well as what didn't, remember it's always up to you to read the instructions. Please follow them. And one other thing I forgot, Kevin. What did I forget?
The first one.
Which one?
Choose what you want to do to your
Jeez. Choose. You see, I started that out with confidence.
Yes, you did.
Sometimes it just takes confidence in being able to think, right? That's the throwback to a conversation Kevin and I had before we hit record. So with that,
sitting across from the guy who's got a T-shirt that says "drummer" with phonetically "drummer." Mm-hmm. Now, one who beats things with sticks,
also known as therapy.
Yeah.
Except for the neighbors, but I'm getting there.
You are getting there, folks. Well, we're going to be doing 2 back-to-back shows here. Unfortunately, you'll get 2 weeks between them, unless Scott feels really sorry for you and doubles them up early.
No. We got to keep the downloads in certain months. So sorry, guys.
So this one, we're going to cover the first half of a very busy 2 weeks that we've had, which was the Great Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion up in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Miss Dolly's hometown.
Yes, absolutely.
So, see, quite a few mountains up there.
And I do want to cover, before we dive too much into the show, I do want to say thank you to all the messages of everyone saying, gee, Scott finally got the lift installed. Yay!
Yes, that did get installed. And even aligned and even driven. So, thus we closed the door on what was purported to be the longest running gag.
Yes. In podcast history.
And the massive amount of disbelief that we had created the story. I will tell you, I was there and took some of the pictures and probably turned a bolt or 3. It actually did happen.
Yeah, it did. So,
and the boxes got moved one last time.
Yep. Into the trash.
So.
And I promptly filled the spot where the boxes were with more boxes. But we'll talk about that in a later show.
Yes.
So back to the Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. It was actually a really interesting trip. It was last minute.
It was very much last minute. It was opportunity knocked, and we opened the door. But the price for that, if you want to call it a price, was the 2 of us had to road trip it. 2 guys in a lifted TJ driving 1,400 miles round trip.
Heck yeah.
And the only problem we had, and if you follow us on Facebook, you know about this, was somewhere halfway point roughly at Buc-ee's gas station, which you guys have to check out if there's not one in your area. They're beyond belief.
But by the way, it's called Buc-ee's. Everyone goes, why'd you go to Boosie's? Well, what's Boosie's?
Yeah.
Guys, it's pronounced Buc-ee's.
Yeah, Buc-ee's, like Bucky Beaver. The big beaver that's on the placard outside in the signs.
Dude, some of those signs are hilarious.
They are. But anyhow, I go and we get fuel and we go inside and get something to eat, make a pit stop, and come back out, close the door, and look out the window and go, why is my step down on my side? My side never quits.
Yeah. It's always my side.
And
your Jeep was like, look, 500 pounds of podcaster and also including all this. No, we're done.
So, look at what's going on there. That's where the infamous quote that Scott videotaped me going, never travel without duct tape. Now, mine is black duct tape to match the Jeep, not gray standard duct tape. But, it's optional that it be color matched to your vehicle.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You had to keep the good feng shui going.
Yes. And, of course, there's follow-on videos of me in the parking lot ripping the step off the side of the Jeep, finding out what's wrong, trying to get it back together, thinking I had it back together, right, Scott? And driving another 100, 200 miles and looking out. And,
Not even. We went to the parts store for a fuse.
that's right. Well, this was
a compressor thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, this was the earlier time.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Where we got the C-clip back on. We found the C-clip in the tray, and it all went back together. And bing! And I'm looking down after the next potty stop, and there's the step, half mast.
Yep.
So good thing it was a larger roll of tape. And then we fixed it yet again up at the final hotel in Pigeon Forge. And that was a little more of a one half of a north end of a southbound mule type of repair.
Tight, yes.
In that I found a Mickey Mouse clip, if you know what I'm talking about, the little C-clip, and threw the bushings away and everything and left it loose and just C-clipped it in. And that way it closed to within a 1/4 inch of closed, and it worked the rest of the trip. And we had a few comments going, "You're always working on that." No, not on that step. That step's the one that's never failed in 8 years. And we'll cover a little bit about that in the garage segment, what it was, what happened, and how to fix it. Yep.
Well, I do want to touch on something you kind of just talked about, comment made about you're always fixing that step. Those steps, like you said, have been, 8, 9 years?
8 or 9 years.
Yeah, and they have not had an easy life.
No,
they've been bashed
abused
against rocks and just you name it.
Yeah, they've taken a pounding. They've been drowned a few times. And while the passengers one has been known to just freeze up, and I now know why, but it could always be brought back to life pretty easily.
Right.
And the driver's one, though, has worked consistently. The
Flawlessly.
passenger one froze up because it didn't see a whole lot of use.
Right.
My wife probably made 1 in 50 trips with me in the Jeep. I was driving to work every day, so. And it kept working, and the other one sat there. And when you have pieces like that use black nylon for bushings and a black step in Florida sun, where, we're starting at our daily temperature of 96 to 98. And if you park it in the sun, like I did the day it quit, last time, that step was down because I left the door open to do some work for about an hour. The step itself, when I used a heat gun on it, was like 155 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the lubricant kind of went, I'm dead, and chipped off with a screwdriver.
Lubricant has left the chat.
Yes. And so, that was just a matter of taking it apart, cleaning it, and putting it back together. It's no different than any other Jeep part that you abuse like that. It takes some TLC. The driver's one, on the other hand, after 8 years, some parts just wore out. And again, we'll cover that later.
But again, that's to be expected.
Yeah, but we made it up there. We did a overnighter in Macon, West Macon, Georgia, at a nice little Fairfield Inn. The folks there were really fantastic, and the breakfast was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And then rolled the rest of the way up and got our hotel room, in Pigeon Forge, which was very close to the LeConte Center where the Great Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion was. And we went in there. We'll cover some of the vendors we talked to. We met a lot of people we knew. We met a lot of new people, saw a lot of new products, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. Had a lot of fun. Then we took a little bit of time out to go playing in some of the mountain areas. And again, we'll discuss that a little bit here too. Some ideas for you guys if you're up in that area where you can kind of nearly wheel without really being out at risk of wheeling, and meet some of the real locals.
Yeah,
which was fun.
The Pigeon Forge Great Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion, to me, like I class Jeep events in 3 classes. Trade shows, where you get to see new and important stuff. Gatherings, there is kind of a wheeling, but not really a wheeling, and it's more like getting to know people.
It's a social event.
Like Jeep Beach and stuff like that. And then there's things like Sheriff's Picken County Jeep Fest. I said that wrong again. I'm sorry,
did, but
Kevin.
That's fine.
That is actually
Don't apologize to me. I'm trying to keep Donnie Craig happy up there in Georgia.
So this one to me was more of a trade show.
Yeah, it was right on the edge of trade show with a little bit of socialization going on.
But it was kind of fun.
It was a lot of fun. It was large. Again, if you saw our Facebook short posts, it covered inside the LeConte Center, outside in their lower parking lot, and then up the hillside across the road. Fortunately, there's a bridged walkway up there. Didn't know that the first time. But where there was yet a second lot full of vendors, and also that's where some of the shows were, where Scott took some pictures of some of the old iron, some of the modifieds, and some of the more, I don't know, pictures with parrots kind of things.
Yeah.
But it's also where our friends from Metal Cloak were. So anyway, so we hit it there, and we started hiking the event. The very first afternoon we got there, we rolled in, checked into the hotel, and immediately went up and found the LeConte Center and started cruising around. We did learn one thing, though, I will tell you about Pigeon Forge.
What's that?
They're okay with you parking on the grass.
Yes.
However, with one really heavily enforced restriction, and if you were there, you know it because they were PA announcing it. They were putting it out on the Facebook, social media. If you have a wheel on the sidewalk, if you have a bumper overhanging the sidewalk, if you're anywhere near the sidewalk with your Jeep, go look for it in the police impound lot because they were actively towing, because there was not enough parking, but people were being very creative, self-included. The very first night we got there, I pulled it back up, but I tucked it back in behind the power poles,
Yeah.
And, we came out and the Jeep was still there. It was no problem. But, everybody said, oh, God, you didn't get towed. I said, well, no, Found out later that if you blocked a sidewalk in any size, shape, or form, you wouldn't have been down the hill to the LeConte Center from the parking lots before your Jeep was gone. It was gone before you were.
Pretty much. And they were okay with it. Like the city or municipality, they understood it was a Jeep heavy event and lots of parking. So again, as long as you didn't do that one no spot,
you're fine.
Yeah, they were okay with it. Like, hey, we get it. It's cool, but just do not do that.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun to go in there. Kind of a interesting place to find people. One thing that I would love to have seen, but I understand they were selling booths literally up to the last week, is it would have been nice to have a map that said who was where. Did not exist, so you ended up having to stroll pretty much everywhere.
Yes.
And but it was a big trade show kind of event, and you could find just about anything in the world, from obviously sound systems, lift kits, add-ons, lights, bumpers, winches, rag tops, soft tops, decorations, you name it. If you didn't find it, you weren't trying.
Well, some of us even found things we didn't even know we were looking for.
Oh, and we'll get to them. Yes, we will. And you can put a lot of distinction on that.
You see what you did there. See, folks, he's been hanging around me too long.
Yeah, well, you know what it is. So first thing is a couple of shout-outs here. Number one, of course, one of our favorite peoples up there, Will, along with Corey and Jesse at Metal Cloak, and now including Adventure Rack Systems, or ARS. They had some really neat rooftops.
Dude,
side popper.
that tent they had that covered like almost a 360.
Yeah.
That did not suck.
No, it didn't. Imagine, if you will, rather than just a rooftop tent where you get up on top of your Jeep, this had arms that came out and overhung like shaded canopies off
like
the back and the side. Yeah, it was. And so when you were down below, it started raining and everybody's hiding under the Jeep canopy, and it was part of the Jeep. So it's a really neat system if you're into either camping from your Jeep or doing the overlanding. You might want to check out ARS. And again, Will and Corey and Jesse are always great to get up there and talk with. And
they were busy on that.
They were busy. And no, I didn't offer to take the Jeep up and put it on the trailer for him. He didn't really need it this time. The other folks that we ran into, and it was kind of humorous, was we met with Rachel and Kevin, the original engineer from none other than Rockslide Engineering, makers of my steps.
Right.
And I will give Rachel credit. She was appalled. Oh, God, you got to fix those. You can't leave them broken here. Bring them up. Bring them here. I'm like, I am not taking my step off and carrying it up to the Licante Center. And Kevin said, yeah, I didn't bring tools for that. And we talked about it. And he says, well, when did you get yours? And I told him, and he goes, oh, my God, those really are Gen 1s. I said, yeah, we were at the Four Wheel Parts and Off-Road Orlando show when you first debuted them. And I was underneath and looking at how they operated and that stuff. And I ended up buying the first set right then. He goes, whoa, that is...
Yeah, I think he remembered you from that show.
Yeah, he did.
You were the first guy saying, Visa number is.
Yeah. So, no, he was impressed. And we talked a little bit about what had happened to mine. Mm-hmm. And for any of you who have the earlier generation of the Rockslide Engineering, get your pencil and paper ready.
There's a test.
Yeah, well, no, this isn't a test. This is a little helpful. And folks, this is a little bit of a segue into the tech sections, but what failed on my driver's side step and is probably going to have to be redone on both sides is a certain bushing. It's called a flanged bushing that the operating motor moves a little piece of steel called a dog bone, little bent piece of steel. And that goes over the pin on the motor and a pin on the steps.
Right.
Pretty simple. The bushing between those steeled parts is a little nylon bushing. And even Kevin's like, we haven't used that bushing in a long time. And he made some suggestions. He said, call me if you don't find it. Well, I found it. Thank you to Kevin. And actually, it was on Amazon, believe it or not. And it is a 1/4 inch ID by 3.312, not quite of a third of an inch OD. It comes a little long, and you have to trim it to length to the size of your dog bone, the thickness of your dog bone, but it trimmed with a razor knife, and it was amazing. It all went back together, and the clips went in, and it's been working absolutely wonderful since then. Mm-hmm. I only changed the one, as Scott laughingly said. He could see the fact that I could take out the 9 bolts and one electrical plug in about, 3 minutes and have the step off and leaned up against the trailer hitch on the back of the Jeep.
It was like a NASCAR pit stop. I thought you want to hold this till later on.
Well, I was, but this is just going to be the little part number so that if I cover it again, you'll know. Mm-hmm. But I did find the parts. They are readily available. And the wildest thing was you can pay like $1 a piece for them from a certain supply house, which is a great place to find parts, but a little expensive. Or you can go on Amazon, and an entire box of 30 of them is $8. I've got bushings to fix these steps for the rest of my life.
Nice.
And then we went on down, and I had been given a place to look for. Now, you guys know we've talked about Melissa Mell and Shane Underwood of Gulf Coast Drive Shafts.
Yep.
They're good friends of the show. And they were like, oh, you get up there, you got to look for Alan. Right? No, Adam.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Adam. Adam at Knoxville Drive Lines. He's supposed to be there, and we ran into it, and I swear Adam's booth looked exactly like Shane and Melissa's booth the first time I saw them at the show. It's like, of course, and in all fairness, how many ways can you put a drive shaft on a table?
Yeah. Well, and he wasn't doing ducks. He was doing, was it donkeys?
Well, he did. Well, I know. What if you cross a duck and a donkey?
I don't know if I can say it on podcasting.
But he had a special little duck, which was actually a donkey's head, and it still had a duck tail, but on top of it was molded a donkey's rope tail.
Gotcha. Duck tail. Ooh, sorry.
Yeah, great. Now we owe more to Disney.
Bring your wallet.
But, he follows the same format and the same materials and operations as the guys down here. So, if you're up there in that central Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee region, need a drive shaft, check out Knoxville Drive Line. Mm-hmm. They're, let's see here. Well, they're on the web. I see they got a Facebook at Knoxville Drive Line, and I'm sure if you give them a call, they can help you out because they do understand the Jeep world. And like I said, they're very close friends to Mel and Shane, and probably lean on each other quite a bit for information. So that's another one that we met. There was another one, and this is a shout back to the Facebook pages. You'll see probably one of the more popular ones that we posted, and I'm sitting here trying to find my info. Who knows where it is? Anyway, and that was Racing Optics.
Yes.
And these are folks, as we said in the
Tyler, right?
Yeah, Tyler and Courtney.
Mm-hmm.
They were there just like they were at Jeep Beach, and we had a good time to talk to them and apologize for not.
Yeah. Well, they understood, and that's a really cool thing that, like, basically what one of their guys there was saying something that kind of like paraphrased the entire interest. I just realized that I didn't have one for my Gladiator, and we'll get to that in the next show. But it's like a screen protector for your smartphone.
Yeah.
It's a screen protector for your windshield.
And we'll talk about it in the next show with Scott's Gladiator. He could have used one. Let's just put it that way. It's similar to the NASCAR peel-off films that they have, and it's custom cut to fit your vehicle, and they'll work with you on specials. And it's called Racing Optics. It's a windshield defense system, and it's something I think you ought to look into if you're suffering from lots and lots and lots of star shots into the windshield and damages, or sandblasting and that kind of stuff. So then we also, as we were running around some of the other parking lots, and these aren't in any particular order, folks, other than my memory, we ran into Matt and Colt. Mm-hmm. And Matt and Colt are two guys that if you follow YouTube at all, if you follow Jeep builds at all, if you've been on YouTube anywhere, even back probably 6-7 years ago, you'll know who I'm talking about with Matt and Colt. My co-host, on the other hand, didn't have a clue. And that would be none other than Bleepin' Jeep.
Yes.
Which he had heard of the name Bleepin' Jeep.
All right. We need to back this up a moment. Hold on. Beep, beep. I need to get something. Okay, guys.
Get it off your chest.
I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yes, you do.
That is my ballywick. Mm-hmm. Okay. And recently I'm getting back into the video production because that's what my schooling is for. So at the behest of Kevin, check out, Bleepin' Jeep, I saw a video. Mm-hmm. And it was the taller, bigger fella, that was on there. And again, I'm watching the video. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, and I watched it while I was doing a couple other things, and I zoned out.
Yep.
Now, when I walked up there, this is so embarrassing. I was calling. I had the names turned around.
He did. It's on the Facebook video post that we did. Scott's.
You can see my deer in the headlight looks. And bear in mind, during this time, not trying to make excuses, but I was on day 3, no sleep.
I said, here's the camera phone. You take over, and then I walked over because
he was my rescuer.
So many, many, many apologies to both Matt and Colt.
I'm sorry, guys. That was such an amateur noob move, too, And here you and I respected a legacy show, the whole 9 yards, and I just completely had my brain. That's kind of like we were at SEMA with Bill Banks, whatever they
Gail Banks of turbocharging fame.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like Kevin's talking, he's all like, shaking hands and all that, and I'm like, yeah, I run his exhaust. That's all I knew. He's like, Scott, that's Gail Banks. I'm like, okay, Scott, that's the Gail Banks. Okay, it wasn't even.
Yeah. So, in other words, I've learned that if it isn't a podcast related person, I have to give him a bio before we walk up. So anyway,
sorry, Matt. Sorry, guys.
Colt, what we'll do is apologize by telling everybody, hey guys, check them out. If you haven't seen Bleepin' Jeep, there's a whole series, years of various builds. They're doing some collaboration with another Matt who was there. Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's Matt Off-Road Recovery from out in Utah.
Right.
And he has the Morvair, and he has the Banana, which is a highly modified XJ. And they do all kinds of really bizarre recoveries and everyday recoveries for stupid human tricks. Like the recent one is somebody out there in a Dodge Challenger somehow taking it off road and got it stuck. I think it was a Challenger. Which is what did you have?
I had a Charger.
Charger, yeah, it was a Challenger. It's a Challenger out in the desert, buried up to the frame. And Matt's comment was, "How in the hell did you get it this far out?" He was actually impressed. So
right foot, lots of it, and never let up.
Yeah, and admittedly, I would have loved to have met Matt, but he had a line a mile long.
Yeah.
And I did probably, I'm not going to say next best thing, probably a better situation was his wife was working the booth, and she's in many of the videos in the background, kind of keeping everything together and that kind of stuff. And so I walked up, and we were expecting cooler weather there, which did not materialize. And I'm sitting here going, I don't have fur on the top of my head that thick anymore. And
Kevin started to smell the barbecue pork.
So I said, I'm going to buy a hat. And if I'm going to buy a hat, I might as well buy one, from Matt's Off-Road. And I walked up and was asking her what she was doing, behind the counter. She goes, "Yeah, what I always do, keep things running." And I said, "Okay." I said, "What you need?" I said, "I'm roasting. I need a hat, and I might as well buy one of yours." She goes, "What color?" And I looked at her and I said, "Really?" I said, "It's Matt's Off-Road." She said, "Yellow it is." I said, "Perfect."
And I'm staring at it right now.
Yeah, you are. So, it was kind of fun. It's kind of fun. So my hat's off to those guys. Literally. And they were doing a bang-up business introducing the East Coast off-road crowd to the West Coast off-road crowd. So, and all of the others were there, Skeeter and Jesse and all of the other people you see in the various recoveries. So it was a lot of fun having them out there. We also were walking along, saw an old friend.
Yes.
There was Harris from
Gear America.
Gear America was there, and Scott and I were laughing because we remember him when he was a startup and working out of the back of his truck. And where did we interview him? In a park.
Our first interview was with Florida Trail Stompers, where he was kind of like, this is before the Gear America thing. He was just kind of one of the
organizers.
No, he was kind of higher up in the food chain.
Okay,
with him and Brian.
So hats off to you, Harris. You're going places, and the business seems to be growing. So keep on going. But if you're looking for, everything from recovery gear, cables, shackles, and that kind of stuff, Gear America is probably not a bad place to go look.
Yeah, I also want to say hi to one of our Patreons, Ed Martin. He was out there a lot.
Yes, he was.
He seemed to be following us, but
well, you kind of had to follow whichever way. Either you crossed or you followed, because they're all aisles. And I know, Ed, you're making progress on getting your LJ back on the road. I was reading some of your comments and trading some info with you. So I hope to see it on the road soon, sir.
Absolutely.
Keeping on going there, we ran into a local friend of ours. Lo and behold, there was Ron and Heather, who are the owners of Red Scorpion. What is it?
Is it Fabworks, I think?
Fabworks and Off-Road is his local one here. Yeah. And then the other one, while we were there, he sent us on up to his new Tennessee-based store. And that was Corey, Mike, and Missy were all there. And Ron, they dress better than you do when you go to shows. I know you're on vacation. But
at least Ron didn't have the guns out, because every time he has his muscle shirt on.
Yeah, sun out, gun out. And then they did their time at the tent as well. So another one of those things that if you're in that Tennessee region and you need some off-road work, Red Scorpion's stretching its legs and moving up that way. Might be a good place to check out. Now, let's see. I stumbled on something new, and this was also in a post if you saw it on Facebook, and I'm just looking for my notes here. Where did I put nope, that's that one.
Well, one of the interesting things when you're talking about this we were talking about ways about bringing stuff up there. So of course, what do? I muffin stuff everything into a green tote.
Yep.
And that's one of those situations where I just kind of like said, I might need this, might need that, might need a wiffle ball bat. Who knows? And I just kept throwing things in there. Yeah. So that was kind of fun. That was an interesting way to do things. So
we met. We ran into Rick and Zoe. Of a new booth, I guess relatively new. Oh, yeah, there it is, called Defiance Tools. And what caught my eye is they have a tool roll very reminiscent of the older military-style tool rolls, but a little more thought out with some zipper pockets and slide-in pockets, both inline and crosswise. But it also had the hanging eyes that I loved in the older ones, that if you had a pegboard, you could actually store your tool roll hanging where tools were accessible when they weren't rolled up and put in your vehicle.
Right.
I like the design so much. I bought one.
Yeah, I say he whipped out the card and said, "I'll take one."
I'll take one, and it's out in the garage, and it's slowly being loaded up with the tools I want to make to put together. We'll talk about it next time at what happened on the next week's event that we put all that stuff to use. But again, they've got some neat products out there, including, which was interesting, the booth had a coffee makers at one end, and things like multi-purpose hand tools and these tool rolls and those kinds of things at the other end. So,
and they're a small local Florida company too.
Yeah, they are. That was what was wild. They are local. I don't remember where in Florida, but if you check it out, I'm sure if you look up Defiance Tools, you can find out all you need to know if you're interested in it. And then let's see. I'm saving one for last, Scott. You know that.
No, I'm scared.
We did also run into, let's see, put them in order. Winrock Off-Road Parks management team was there.
Yes.
And we have communications with Brent, the managing director. And we will be getting Brent on the show.
Yes.
Which I think will be a lot of fun. We're going to get some history, some information about Winrock. We've heard about it. It's talked about. But I'm sure not everybody's been there, including us.
Well, we've got a couple invites to go with another Jeep podcast, but unfortunately, it just, when we got the invite, it was right in the middle of all my stuff going on, so of course we couldn't make it. But, one of the questions we talked, little small teasers, we talked to them about, there's this big misconception that this park is like for, premium off-road 40s and 1-ton rock-crushing V8 guys. And no, we have other trails for everyone else too.
Everything down to hiking trails, So we're going to be doing a show with the Winrock management staff here in the near future. We'll get a date. I don't know exactly when yet. We got to find out when their schedule and our schedule lines up. And but we're going to have them on. And so thanks out to the Winrock Park. And of course, when you live there, those of you in it's a backyard, you're thinking, oh, yeah, that's Winrock. That's great. Yeah, well, we say the same thing about Disney. Yeah, it's great. It's in our backyard. It just costs a lot.
Yeah, pretty much. Bring your wallet. No, no. Well, one of the things that we did also see Stacy. I want to make a shout out to her.
Oh,
too.
Well, I was getting there.
Okay,
I was getting there. But yeah, you're fine. You're fine. You need to talk a little on this show, or I'm going to be hoarse by the time it's done. Or
Great.
at least a little pony.
Hold on, he's counting one as his hoof hits the ground.
Yes.
It's going to be a long time typing at 170.
Oh, yes. Anyway, of course, coming right in at the beginning was one of our more favored folks that we like to run into, and that's Redline Booth, and there was Stacy.
Southern and Sweet Tea.
Yeah, Southern and Sweet Tea.
And her husband. And it was kind of interesting because,
he just had shoulder surgery, so I was in there going, okay, how you doing, bro? And he had that look, and I'm like, good drugs.
It's like, I did the whole high five. I'm sorry.
How about a low tickle?
Whoa, but family show. But she, of course, was very happy to see us. And she also talked about a couple of show ideas that she had that she was keeping an eye out for us.
She's already contacted me with a couple of those.
Oh, good. She did, because she did too to me. And then that's one of the one that we didn't write down was the guy from Hard Rock, or Rock Hard Cages.
Oh, yeah. We would have gotten there, but yeah.
Eventually.
So let's go ahead and talk about that. Scott was telling me all about this.
I'm having a squirrel moment.
I'm hunting for this one company.
Yeah.
And we found them, and it's Rock Hard.
This is sport cages.
It's a sport cage. It's a typically bolt-on additions to your factories. And it was kind of interesting to go through it. They caught my attention immediately with their... They had various models of Jeep in on it. They're showing the different cages.
Impact Orange TJ. What did he say? Like 16,000 original miles
on it. Yeah.
I was like, oh.
But it caught my eye. And one of those, Scott says, only an engineer, and said, yeah, okay, fine. Guilty as charged. Is what caught me was the cage, the front A-pillar reinforcement arms that came down. And then, they come in round till they get to the dash, and then they go to the typical angled plate that's been welded up to go beside the dash, but into the door jamb, all the way down to the floor, right?
Right.
This is the first one, folks, that I have seen. I'm not saying there aren't others out there, but most of those cages I have seen have a problem. They cover up two critical screws on many of the TJs and other models. And those are the screws that mount the speaker cover on the side of the dash, which necessitates removing the cage leg to service that speaker. Now, is servicing the speaker critical? No, but that's not the point. Behind that door on TJ's is the ground point for all of your dash and electronics. So right there above the speaker, there's a bolt stud, and you'll see a whole bunch of wires jammed under that one thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it's commonly when you guys who have these TJs like I do, and if you've ever had the dreaded dash where the needles go zip, bip, 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 all back, right, left, up, down, lights flash on, then they settle down, then they wiggle again, and it's that ground wire is cracking, and it's shorting and, coming undone and reconnecting, or a dead battery. And
yeah.
And if you can't service that without taking the cage out, how does that help you on the trail?
Yeah.
And you could get in through 2 holes, take the screws out, and then snap the snaps outwards and pull the thing off. And I was very impressed with their attention to detail. They also went ahead and extended their legs down and picked up the body points that go down to the frame in the front as well as in the rear, like most of them do.
Right.
And then their crossbar was pretty standard, other than it could be mounted curved in or curved out, so you could decide where you wanted to put it if you were running a 5-point harness. Overall, it's a really neat-looking system. I'm going to study it a little more next time we have a chance. But Scott was really going, ooh, I want to go look at these things.
Well, and I don't really get excited about a lot of stuff, especially lately, because, again, we'll cross to the next show, but, the Gladiator's kind of taken a lot of my attention span lately. So very, very little stuff for the LJ, because, again, the LJ is getting to that point now where it's like, once I get my seats installed and a couple other things, I'm going to enjoy it.
Yep.
I'm not, I built this thing to enjoy it. And, I'm getting to that point.
So let's get on to our there's 2 more shout outs, but one in particular, and I'm going to save one for the very, very last, but that's more of a neat guy to meet. But this one's one we know. We've had a lot of involvement with, and we'll feed directly into the garage segment. And that was Mark Cantrell of WranglerFix.com was there. And if you remember the last show, we talked about the blue jeans that were sent for him. He had the blue jeans and the letter there at the show on the table, which was hilarious. And was surprised at how many people actually knew what it was.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're coming up to see what was going on. We will get to a little more discussion of our interaction with Mark in the garage section for later in the day, in the evenings. But it was nice to see Mark there, and he had just a rack of different computers out and was talking to everybody that came along, and they're like, "Oh, you can fix this model? Yes. You can get me for yes."
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, did he ever say no?
No, he never said no. And that's the thing with him at customer service. He lives by those feedbacks, those Google reviews. He wants to make sure you're happy.
He really does.
Yes.
We did run into somebody that was really cool, and some of you may know him. He has a Facebook page. He has a website. He has a YouTube channel, and that would be Chris Sweeney of the Jeep Medic.
Now, this was completely by accident, but really, really super cool how this went down.
Unbelievable.
I was snapping some pictures about old iron and stuff like that, and because again I love the old iron pictures. I love the older Jeeps. I love the Kaiser front ends. I love all this stuff because again that's just my wheelhouse. Is again the older iron. And as I snapped this picture, all of a sudden we start getting notifications that this guy basically is like, "Hey, you made it," or whatever. And I'm like, "What? Who is this person?" And he's like, "Thank you so much for having me on your page." And we're like, "Okay, no problem." And come to find out, this guy's got a really cool story.
It does. His Jeep is named Frank, short for Frankenstein. It's a 1982 Jeep J10, but you'd swear it was a military 715. And he's got a whole page up on the www.thejeepmedic.com showing a pictographic restoration from what it looked like when he drug it home to all the rebuild steps and everything. Now, he is a mechanic by trade, so he has the skills, but he also uses it as literally what you would see. It's how he takes his tools out to help other Jeepers in breakdown situations, an off-road service truck that goes out to you as opposed to recovering you and then dragging you in. I'm sure he can do that. It's a very well built rig. So if you haven't checked out the build of Frank, quote unquote, and or the Jeep Medic, I'm sure you can look up the jeepmedic.com, or he's got his Facebook page and link it. I found the pictographic story on the website to me, it was fascinating because he shows a reasonable amount of detail without, showing every bolt, but he does, the teardown, the sandblasting, the bodywork, the painting. Once he's got it painted, he selects a hardtop for it, for the bed, and then commences with all of the other bits, pieces, and details of windshields and engines, and cooling, just kind of really neat. And then he explains it, start showing his toolbox and the master of organization with all of his wrenches hanging in there. It's just really cool how they fabricated the winch mounts, how they kind of went through all the details. And then he got somebody out there that did the graphics. And the graphics are just flat out.
They're cool.
They're cool. That's the only way to put it.
They do Frank justice. And he's also got a YouTube page. And I did reach out to him. And eventually coming up here, now we got a full shows, the next few shows. But we're eventually going to have him on to tell the story and all that. And again, it's a really cool Jeep. And I love the originality.
Yeah, it's a beautiful build. So let's go on to the last shout out that I have to do. And it was a case where my co-host, as he leads off every show with, it's my job to derail Kevin, at every turn, and which he does with great success and aplomb. He met his match.
Yes, I did.
And a young, very nice looking young lady who is running a small booth company called Distinction Applied. And they are out of Hernando, Florida. There was another Floridian we found out.
Yeah.
And they deal in, I don't know how you describe it, Jeep stuff, badges, labels, numbers. You ever wish you could get the word Jeep, where it's mounted to your Jeep, in a different color or a different accent?
Yeah.
They do that. You want a different way for the Gladiator to be done with a different color, a different, they can do that.
Go on their website. They have everything.
They have everything you can imagine. And not only was she zingering Scott to the point he could barely talk, her eyes lit up when we made a comment about something, and she pulls over because Scott was giving her it's not gold, it's bronze.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, you put me on the spot now.
Well, but the funny thing was what she did was she turns around and she walks back and she comes up with a little box and she says, since you're hung up with that, and I'll let you tell the rest of the story about
we're gonna back up for a second here. Beep beep. Okay, here's what we got.
Allie, this is just awesome.
Yeah, this is hilarious because they said you want the 392 gold on the emblems because I'm doing the Jeep on the tailgate.
Yeah.
I want the black, and then instead of that red, I want it to be bronze. Okay. And on the Jeep fenders, the hard metal or the hard plastic emblems, the black with the bronze, not the red. And the same thing with the Jeep trail emblem, the trail rated,
the badge,
the one rated badge. Yeah, that's now has bronze, not red. And I'm currently having a company do the Jester Graphics is going to do the hood ones to match,
right?
And the 392 bronze. So I even did the tow hooks in bronze.
Yes, we had to do all kinds. We'll get to that later. More disassembly to get to those tow hooks.
So we're going through everything, and finally she's like, she goes, "Oh, she want the 392 gold." I'm like, bronze. And you could almost hear the awkwardness in the air. And I'm like, it's not gold, it's bronze. She's like, okay. It didn't skip a beat. So like Kevin says, we're sitting there talking and she brings out this box and she goes, what would go great with those bronze emblems? A bronze cup. And she holds out the bronze cup with the Jeep logo. And I'm like, put it in the pile. She got me. She got me good.
Allie, that was awesome.
That was awesome. So we did a little video real quickly on the Facebook page, but it was kind of fun because now, and I got them yesterday.
Yeah.
And they come with a template. So
you know where to put them.
I know where to put them. So the idea is here. That
and I hope after all the years you worked in a body shop, you can get the other ones off without destroying the fender.
I need an adult. So the, no, I know how to do that.
I figured as
use
much.
The air chisel, right?
Yeah.
So,
or the propane or the oxyacetylene torch.
Exactly. Yeah. Can't hold it if it's liquid, but no, so I just got them yesterday, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. But again, it was very fun because I wanted that different little touch because, I'm trying to find ways to make the Gladiator mine.
Yeah. And
just to be real, I'm still struggling with the fact that it is mine now.
Yeah.
And these little touches really do help, especially with the bronze wheels, So, and especially all the bronze lift kit that's now inside my, I don't care if it's Metal Cloak
gold.
No, it's Metal Cloak bronze now, or Metal Cloak cadmium, as Kevin would say.
Well, it's a CAD plate, so
It's
okay,
a CAD
guys.
plate. So you see the themes here, And I even for a hot minute, I kind of decided not to, but I thought about putting the fire chicken on the hood,
God,
But I'm not going to do that because that's just kind of blasphemy. Although it would be funny. Moving on. So. But anyways, this whole company was very fun.
Maybe
I got
you
a chance
spent a little
to talk
too
to
long in Georgia to get that idea.
Dude, I grew up on Smokey and the Bandit. It was part of the curriculum in school. You had to watch it, But we had CB talk back and forth, But the Smokies in a
CBs.
brown
Come
paper
on.
wrapper, that what that is.
Mm-hmm.
On Mark Carr. Thank you very much. So as I got off my derailment here.
Yes.
What was I talking about now? Parts or something like that? Anyways, it was a great little adventure. And yes, she absolutely zinged me back. And the whole time this is going down, I'm just hearing Kevin going, yes. About time he knows how it feels.
Of course, the fact that I was over there just unable to breathe from laughing may have been a clue.
And egging them on too, doing the whole fist bump, like, yeah, get them, But it was fun.
But in all honesty, I would suggest that you guys, if you want those custom pieces or just something unusual, imagine if you had something that you wanted to put the Jeep logo on. They can give you a authentic looking Jeep logo right off your Jeep without having to go vandalize one of your neighbors.
Yeah. Okay, that's aggressive.
Well, where else are you going to get it?
Moving on. You could try calling the parts guy.
But you're not working there right now.
Good point.
Anyway.
What are we doing now? Words?
Yeah, words.
Okay.
So with that, a big shout out to Distinction Applied and to Allie and all of her family that was surrounding her carrying.
Dad was busy schmoozing and shaking hands.
Yep. So now let's go ahead. I think it's time to head on out to the garage and give a summation of what has become quite a little bit of drama for me on testing out a Wrangler Fix modified PCM. Mm-hmm. And folks, I know that wasn't the normal garage door that Scott usually does, but it's
He's
a
tired,
new house.
doesn't wanna
They're
edit.
tired and they're quiet. So anyway, giving you the short rewind. Quite a while ago, several months.
Yeah, right before we left for another Jeep event.
Yeah.
The Show and Shine.
The show, yeah. My PCM was acting up. I did talk to Mark about some ideas, and he said, look, I got something I want to send you. And I was like, okay. And he sent me a prototype ECU. And he said, this is a prototype. I'd like you to try it out and see if you can get it. See if it, tell me what you think. And he was deliberately vague. Long story short, it is a new body style, which he uses, but instead of my stock tune, this has had some enhancements. And he wouldn't tell me the exact enhancement. He wanted to see what I could figure out.
Enhance.
Yes. And it does. It has some adjusted shift points. I do believe it has changed some of the
Fuel
mapping, particularly in the idle areas. And it has changed some of the lock and unlock on the torque converter settings, RPMs and levels like that. And these are just guesses on my part. Again, Mark is considering whether he's going to sell these already tuned ECUs in addition to the factory replacement program. These are not factory replacement ECUs, and they're technically not new. He buys a module from a supplier, and then he adds the tune. So technically it's a reman, I think. Mark will correct me loudly if I'm wrong. But the key is he uses a different case style that is not subject to the same failures that were so prevalent in the 4 to 6 4 liters and other versions. And he's branched out. He covers all kinds of vehicles now. But the key is, he said, I want you to test it because his remaps where the memory points are. to get away from potential failure areas in the older style ECUs. And that's in all of them that he does. He tries to address those known flaws and does it very, very well. But this one was a little different. And so I agreed that I'd give it a run. Put it in and immediately threw a check engine light, much to my horror. Turns out that it is, because it's a beta, it doesn't even have a baseline cam crank signal matching.
Right.
And as we talked about in the last show, I broke down and bought an Autel MaxiSys 906, whatever. If you send me an email if you wanted to go back and listen to the other show. And it just took a while for me to get it. Got it in, got it matched up, and I've since been running the ever-loving snot out of it. So for this part, I'm going to talk about the drive up. There wasn't a lot of wheeling at the event itself, but we did put 1,400 miles on it, hard miles, and so it's a very good highway test. First question everybody is, what did it do for the mileage? Not much, but it didn't hurt it. We got a pretty solid 13.8 to 14. I think the highest
Almost
was
like a 14.9.
14.9 for the highest one.
Now that's loaded down into the wing.
Yeah, that's with 2 adult males, well fed, and all of our cargo and our gear, cruising up I-95 from the Tampa region through Atlanta, actually around Atlanta, and then up into Tennessee. So it was a lot of flat land and a lot of hill climbing.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, the higher mileages didn't come on the flatlands. It came as we were running around in the mountains. So I'm not really sure how that worked, but it was an interesting result. Ride-wise, it was smooth. It's smoother than any TJ idle that I've ever had. No, I could see out the mirrors at a dead idle. And believe me, with the mods on my Jeep, the Edelbrock head and the induction and the exhaust and those changes, she idled like she was cammed, and you couldn't really see anything in the mirrors. You could see blur, but that was about it. Now it's as smooth. I can see everything. There's still a little bit of vibration, but nothing distorting. Acceleration was really good. One of the key things that I found absolutely fantastic on it was the unlock. In the factory PCM, and when I call the unlock, that's the unlock of the torque converter when you're in overdrive.
Right.
And we'd start going up a mountain, and I just ease into the pedal to compensate for the uphill run, or even the cruise control throttling in to keep speed up. That torque converter would unlock in a heartbeat, and we could hold that RPM, and we were able to hold 70 plus. If you've ever driven on 75, you know that driving 70 is a good way to die. Let's just say I maintained myself with traffic with absolutely no problem. Without that violent, in the factory ones, you have to stomp down to get it to unlock. None of that here. It performed very well. There was one hiccup, and I won't even call it a hiccup. It may just be something to get used to, is it unlocks very easy, but it also doesn't rush to lock up again. So I had to, on some of the steeper climbs, and maybe it was just steep enough that the programming was holding it into that unlocked mode, I had to literally kind of lift my foot for a second to get the transmission to lock back into overdrive.
Okay.
Not overdrive, into torque converter lockup. It wasn't really a problem. It was just so different of a behavior that it called itself out to me after all the years and miles I put on, on it as is. It drives different.
Yeah, well, duh.
And we even did a little bit of, let's call it mock off-roading, right, Scott? When we went out to Cades Cove, we did a little visitation out in Cades Cove. And I happen to know, and a lot of you do too if you've been up that way, that there's a back exit out during the summer months called the Rich Mountain Road, which is really a fire trail. It'd been fairly well graded this time of year, but it's pretty windy and narrow. And so we took it out that way.
Lots of burrs.
Yeah, we ran into a couple of black bears out there while we were there, and let them mosey on by. Any black bear in a hurry is usually something you should roll up and lock your doors for, because it probably means they're hungry and you look tasty, crunchy, good
Sandwiches.
ketchup. But damn, I can't figure out how to open this tin can. So hard tops are nice for that. Whereas the soft tops are a little more that easy reseal peel off.
Yeah.
But anyway, and
It's like a wrapper to a candy bar.
yeah, we wound through the areas without any problems, and understand that this is elevation wise significantly different than down in Tampa. We're not Denver, but we're probably over 2,500 feet or almost 3,000 feet in elevation. Yeah. And some of those trails, even though they were graveled fire roads, they had some pretty good climbs and winds, and the engine never missed a beat. So hats off on that. The next show, I will finish this discussion, because then after we got home, we turned around and took it right back up to North Georgia. There, we put the PCM and the Jeep through a bunch of Georgia trails. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about that when we talk about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anything that you have to add, Scott? I'm hoping we didn't run on too long on this show.
We're actually perfect where we need to be, because we're going to frontline these shows, because Kevin's doing some traveling in the beginning of October.
Yep.
And I'm going to be traveling the beginning of November.
Yep.
So we're going to frontline some shows. I think we covered pretty much everything we wanted to. I'm most likely to go to Jeeptoberfest.
Okay.
That's an event coming up.
If I'm around, I probably will go.
Yeah, 21st through the 23rd, possibly.
That's still quasi-local for us. Now, didn't it move again, didn't it?
Yeah, it's at Huckleberry Farms or something like that. I have no idea. But they have, it's the 25th anniversary of it, and it's 2 hours west of me. So
it's about an hour and a half to 2 north of me.
Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of like literally in the smack dab in the middle of the state. But
well, it's the only place that we have elevation. It's all whopping 300 feet of uphill.
So I'm hoping to take the LJ out there and take the off-road with a new lift.
That's good. That's actually very, very good. Well, we hope you guys liked it. If there's any questions about any of the vendors, let us know. We'll be glad to give you contact information. Mm-hmm. You can go on our Facebook page. There's, like I said, if you haven't been there before, there is all kinds of short snippets of us running through that area.
And start checking out the Facebook page a little more, because we are starting to add a lot more content. And
at least snide comments, if nothing else.
Oh yeah, that too. But what do you expect? You know.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it, and I'd have to tell you that if you're Jeep shopping, the Great Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion was pretty dang cool for Jeep shopping.
That was fun.
It was on par with Jeep Beach, and it's basically Jeep Beach in the mountains versus Jeep Beach on the beach.
Yeah.
So,
well, one of the things Kevin and I are talking about is the Bantam Jeep Festival.
Yep.
So if you have any experience with that and you've been to that, drop us a line on the trail podcast at gmail.com or a Facebook message, because we'd like to hear your feedback on that, because Kevin and I are working on something here that hopefully we can bring up there that we think will go over really well.
Yeah.
But on that note, though, Kevin, I think it's time we're done talking. I think it's time to lock the hubs, put the Jeep in 4 low, and hit the trail.
I agree. Again.
Absolutely.
Although I still haven't cleaned off the mud from the last time. Unlike you, I saw you polished yours nice and bright and shiny again.
I did the best I could, yes.
All right, folks. Take care, and we'll be up with the next half of this, what do you want to call it, pair of shows for a great 2 weeks of running around the country and doing some wheeling and meeting lots and lots of neat Jeepers like you.
Almost 3,000 miles in the span of less than 14 days.
Yep.
So with that, I think it's time we lock hubs at the trail. Remember to take nothing but pictures, memories, and your trash when you leave the trail.
He did it right.
I know, didn't I? Because we want to keep these trails open for our children and our children's children.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.
Proceeding has been provided for entertainment only. Proper service and repair procedures are vital to the safe, reliable operation of all motor vehicles, as well as personal safety of those performing those repairs. Standard safety procedures and precaution, including the use of safety goggles and proper tools and equipment, should be followed at all times to eliminate the possibility of personal injury or improper service which could damage the vehicle or compromise its safety.
What he said. Thanks a lot for listening, guys. You guys have a great day.
Bye.
This has been a Bent Axle Media production.